One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.
At the end of an academic year or a calendar year, whichever it may be for you guys, I'm curious as an AD how you step back and evaluate your own performance on the past year. So almost a self-performance evaluation, some steps that you may go through on that front.
So for me, and I grew up through the business and have a great mentor in Kevin White, and we had developed way back, I think, Maine days when we were at the University of Maine, of kind of 5 areas of focus that we focus our attention on a daily basis, and that's the student-athlete experience, personnel, facilities, resource acquisition, and the political dynamics of our job. And so what I've done for quite a while now, and I use it with my evaluation with my supervisor, the president and the vice president, I go through, and at the end of each year, I break those down and I look at accomplishments, goals, and from that, it's a pretty good way of kind of checking, having a step check each year of what we do. And I look at it and when I was out at Portland State, we used a SWOT analysis with Nike, and Nike had done that. And so I look at strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats, and I look at those areas in those categories and break it down. And I put it down on paper, basically give it to my boss, but I use it as a self-evaluation.
Is that the same structure and format you'll go through with your senior staff internally?
Yeah, and actually then we look at, and I break those down. I have them look at their areas and look at a strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. And I kind of package it all together, in all those 5 categories. But really, at the core of things, we look at that student-athlete experience. How are we really doing academically? How are we doing athletically and personal development? So most of it we spend on that area and evaluate ourselves and how we're doing.
Is there any one of those 5 areas, given the current climate in college athletics, that you have found yourself spending more time in over the past, say, year or two, or more focused on?
I think it stays focused on the student-athlete experience. So, what are we graduating kids? Are our scholar-athlete numbers up? How's our APR doing? How do they feel about it? And then athletically, that's an easy measurement of how many championships you've won. Where are the kids receiving a great experience athletically? And then on the personal development, we've kind of that's the area that we've looked at and developed a leadership program that's a 4-year program, Going Pro the Aztec way, kind of a takeoff of what the NCAA had done, Going Pro, the ad that they had, and there's 4,000 student athletes or whatever the number is, and looking at that, and that was an area we felt we had not developed as fully as we'd liked, and so there's been a great emphasis, and our senior associate AD Bobby Smitherin has taken that on, and we actually got accredited a 4-year program at San Diego State that our freshmen started this year, and then we're going to work through adding to senior suit up when they're seniors. So that's an area that we've really, if there's one area, that's the area we've focused on.
When you present this to the president and vice president on your own self-analysis, do they give you some quality feedback on what they've seen over that year that maybe you hadn't thought of or you'd missed, or accentuate to some things that you've already listed? Is that a pretty collaborative experience?
Yeah, they read through it. I think they feel it's a good way to look at it. So it's a healthy look at athletics, and getting away from the emotion of the wins and losses of how things are going, and obviously on the development side, that takes more and more. That's taking more and more resource acquisition, if you will, of trying to how are you funding the program? How are you growing revenue streams? And have you created new revenue streams, or are there some out there that you can develop? And between the personal development of the student athlete and resource acquisition, those are probably the things that take most of the time.
And this is just an annual exercise, or do you do it more frequently with your own staff?
It's an annual exercise that I do on that global, and then we do a little retreat, and we sit down and get everyone else's. We share with our senior staff each of their areas, how things are going, and then this last year we narrowed it down and used what are the opportunities that we need to look at, and our challenges and opportunities we focused on this last year, and that really helped us dial down so it wasn't so long, and it didn't take as long, and we could go through things, and we felt pick the things that we felt were most important, and then I kind of use it as a guide for me. I look at it periodically throughout the year of how are we doing, where are we at, and you always get the measurement on the wins and losses, but how are we doing in those other areas? And I think about it, and now over the holidays I'll take it out and look at it as a check step in the 6 months, if you will.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.